Congress has reached a deal on extending the payroll tax cut and other unemployment benefits. Siobhan Hughes is joining us this morning with the details. Siobhan, sort of a reversal here. A lot of people didn't know if the fight would continue to the 11th hour on this payroll tax cut, but it seems that it was politically beneficial to both sides to come together on this one. Tell us why.
Yeah, that's right. And by the way, this isn't done yet. We're not going to know until Friday, but this has been a real thorn in Republican side because Republicans are always the party who likes to cut taxes, and they were on the wrong side of this. They wanted to have your taxes go up, and so they were just getting hammered over this. And at the same time, the Democrats, partly trying to make sure the economy stays good this year, wanted this tax cut to stay in place. They also wanted extended jobless benefits. So they had a lot to gain from going along with this.
In fact, the Republicans, didn't want to be seen as not providing the tax cuts to the middle class. And sort of the backdrop of all of this, we should note, is the election year coming up and the political fights that are shaping up and each side wanting to position themselves on either side, right?
Yeah, that's right. Neither side could really afford to stay stuck in this fight for too long. Republicans couldn't because, as we mentioned, they were just getting beaten up on this. And Democrats really couldn't either because they couldn't afford to have the economy, some of those fundamentals underpinning growth be taken away at a year when the economy is going to be really, really important for Mr. Obama and their own election prospects.
Siobhan, is there any prospect that this year that economic policy will trump politics? And by that I mean, I think even many Democrats would argue that the payroll tax cut, a lot of these things were not really matters of economic policy, they were a matter of political policy, and that's why they in effect had the Republicans cornered. We had a very, very political budget, not really an economic budget, come out of the White House. Is there any prospect that people are going to turn to economic policy over the next 12 months, or are we going to be in this kind of political purgatory where everything is done for the matter of the re-election campaign?
Well, the election campaigns are driving a lot of this. But, on Capitol Hill, there's a big fight right now over economic policy. And you've got a lot of people who really think that Keynesian economics is dead. You, at this point, cannot stimulate the economy because the deficits are going to be just too high. And then you've got other people who are really the Democrats saying, hey, wait a second, the economy is so weak. The only thing to do right now is to stimulate the economy. And so that economic fight is very real, and it really is being waged on Capitol Hill, even as you've got this overlay of the elections coming up.
My take on this, for what it's worth, is unless the bond markets start reacting very, very negatively to the trillion-plus deficits.
Right.
This year, the Obama budget has another $1 trillion, 900 some odd billion deficit. The payroll, until there is no incentive for the politicians to do anything other than basically, spend a lot more money. I mean, there's no incentive really, even for the Republicans right now. That's why they're in a difficult spot, because the bond market is saying, we don't really care about the deficit. And so for Paul Ryan and for the House Republicans to lead some kind of charge against the deficits, it's a little bit suicidal, because basically the bond market's saying we don't care. At some point, the bond market will care, but by that point, the Obama White House is betting they'll be reelected, so they won't care.
A discussion on your in your Main Street column yesterday on the Mark, so everybody should check that out. It's on our website. And Siobhan, we also want to talk about some of the other provisions that were in this, some payments to doctors on Medicare, and also the time, the extension, or how long these long-term benefits would be paid out. Is that still a point of contention in this fight?
That's not a point of contention. The extensions for all of these things are going to last all the way to the end of the year. So to the end of the year, for the final 10 months, doctors will not see that more than 25% cut in reimbursements for seeing Medicare patients. And extended jobless benefits that kick in when the states aren't contributing anymore, those will go on. One important note, though, for anybody on extended benefits, those are about to become a lot less generous. From an average of about 93 weeks at a maximum for most states, you're going to drop to about 63 weeks at a maximum for most states. So that's a significant decline. And that's one of those areas where Republicans can claim to have really gotten somewhat of a victory. Democrats, on the other hand, can say, hey, wait a second, at least we managed to extend these enhanced unemployment benefits.
Siobhan, what should we be looking for in terms of triggers before the election that will bring the entitlement programs, things like this Medicare, they were just ridiculous, totally political argument they have that, you know, they budget that they're going to cut Medicare payments and then they never do it to the doctors, I mean.
Right.
At what point over the next 9 months before the election will we see a trigger point? Will it be raising the debt ceiling? Will it be, I don't know what it will be. Will there be a trigger, or are we just going to head straight into the election with this kind of politics trumping economic policy?
There are no obvious triggers on the horizon. The way the debt ceiling was set up, it was designed that way, so you would increase the debt ceiling and get that off the table long before the next elections were coming up. The only things that you could really see happening to focus the mind would be the European crisis somehow spilling over and really starting to affect this country. Based on what Tim Geithner, the Treasury Secretary, said yesterday, it sounds like that is of diminishing likelihood, but that is an example. Another thing, I think you were talking earlier about oil prices and oil price shock. That's the type of thing that can really focus the mind on Capitol Hill.